okay? Now, we missed the intro, but this is all about the referrals from sales. So the focus has to be when you make a sale, doesn't matter what your referrals were going into the point where you were getting that sale, make sure you get more referrals than where you were at that point in the presentation. If you're at 1, get yourself to 5. If you already had 5, get yourself 5 more. Always get 5 more than what you had. That's what's going to allow you to spend all your time presenting referrals from sales. And you'll understand that when I get to the close, why that's so important. But the next step that makes it such a high closing ratio is when you do the presentation. You cannot treat this lead like every other lead. It must be treated differently. One thing you do have to do, I said it yesterday, and I'm just going to repeat it today, by the way. I'm not going to get into the phone script. But when you do your phone script on this, just in case you weren't in our thing yesterday, and even if you were, I want to reiterate it, don't ever use the word life insurance on the phone. Ever. You can't say, I was visiting with your friend John, and he was allowed to sponsor family and friends to receive some life insurance, and he sponsored you. The only people you will ever sell from that, you'll get one sale every 2 to 3 weeks from what I call lay down, which is, it doesn't matter. You could have had Frankenstein's mask on your face and they would have bought from you. Or you happen to speak to someone that was in the process of shopping for insurance, which is also rare. Every other person that you speak to and you use the word life insurance on the phone for any type of lead, you're automatically going to turn them off. It is a well-known fact. Life insurance is something that every single person needs, but nobody wants to buy or pay for. Every single person I'm looking at right now, you all need more life insurance, myself included, than what you have. I guarantee it. But ask yourself this, you don't have to answer it out loud. How many of you right now want to pay more money to buy more life insurance? None of you do. So why in the world would I talk to you over the phone about life insurance before I had a chance to do the presentation, which is what brings you up to the point where you actually see how much you need it? All I was doing is turning you off like that. And you don't want to get turned off like that, not if you're the one making the call. So don't use those words. When I'm listening to the phone room later and whatever, I don't want to hear life insurance. I'll call you out on it because you're killing yourself. All right, you praise in public, you reprimand in private. I will reprimand in public on this one. But it's not a reprimand. I'll be like, Kevin, you said life insurance. All right, so that part being put aside, when you present to people, you have to make it special. They have to feel special. That's what makes the close easier. And there's a couple of simple ways in the beginning to do this. Very first thing that you're going to do, I used to do this from the time I shook the hand at the door, somewhere between the door and the time we got to the table, during the walk. The point I'm trying to make is that now it's virtual, there is no walk. So you're going to do this in the beginning. You're going to ask them how they're doing, how they're dealing with the virtual. Me and my wife haven't killed each other yet, so I know it's a good day. Always make them laugh. You don't do anything without making them laugh. But after you make them laugh, before you get into any other warm-up with them, the very first thing, Matt, unmute your phone. Because I'm going to just say it to you. I'm not sure if there's going to need to be interaction, or you'll give me interaction where I need it. But the very first thing that I'm going to say when I'm presenting Matt is I'm going to say, listen, Matt, before we get started, I need you to do one thing for me. Now, I already made you laugh, so your guard is down. I need you to do one thing. The only reason you're allowed to see these benefits, because they're normally not for the general public, they're just for union members, or they're just for child safe members or policyholder, whatever. The only reason you're even allowed to see these benefits is because your brother Joe He sponsored you for them. Without his sponsorship, you would never be talking to me. I wouldn't be allowed to talk to you. So what I need you to do for me is real simple, but it's really for yourself. When we're finished today, 30 minutes from now, whenever we're done, when we're done later today or tonight, just give Joe a call, if you would, and just thank him for sponsoring you. Because without his sponsorship, you'd never see these. So you'll make sure you do that?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, you definitely want to, because he thought enough of you to put you towards the top of the list.
Okay.
And you would never, I'll say it over and over again, you would never see this stuff if he didn't sponsor you. So make sure you thank him.
Okay.
You guys, what do you think is happening here?
You're making me, you want me to answer or no?
No. Somebody else, what do you think is happening here?
I told everybody to mute in the group me, so guys, if you want to answer.
Unmute.
You're kind of stressing the exclusivity of the whole thing and, the fact that the brother's the one that brought him in. So you're kind of, reinforcing the relationship, so to speak.
Everything you said is right. There's only one word, though, that I heard. That was hit the nail on the head. Exclusivity. People want what they can't have. It's human nature. So if I'm sitting here telling them that normally they can't have this, but because of John, they now can, they get to have something they can't have. And I'm sure, Matt, I shouldn't have jumped in so quick. I'm sure that's around what you were going to say. Yes, or you have something to add to it?
You're making it sound so much better than anything that they ever could have seen before this. Because it's so exclusive.
That too, but the exclusivity is the part. By them agreeing to thank John, I don't care if they thank John, but by them agreeing to thank John, because without John, you'd never be able to see these. This Zoom call we're having right now, Mike, it would never take place if John didn't sponsor you. So make sure later today that you give him a call and thank him. Will you do that, Matt?
Yep.
All right, good. Everybody wants what they can't have. You guys want what you can't have. And you guys don't want it until you can't have it. Like if you have a policy that sat there for 3 weeks and you haven't done anything with it, and I say, okay, I'm giving it to Matt to take it. And he goes and recodes it. Now you get angry. Meanwhile, it sat for a month and you did nothing with it. You didn't want it until you couldn't have it. We all know that kids, their toys will sit on a shelf. They'll never use it until you tell their other brother or sister they can play with it. Now all of a sudden they want it. It's human nature to want what you can't have. So you need to use that in your presentation. You've got to build this lead up. Listen, when they send a union card in, they know they can have the benefits. They send in for it, and that's why I'm calling them. They didn't need anyone to give them permission. Everyone in the group got the card. They can send it in. Anybody can go online and ask for child safe. So they know they can have it. Now, you can still get them to want it even more, but it's not exclusive. There's a certain amount of exclusivity. This is huge because without them, they can't get it. They would never meet me. So thank them. The other thing I'm going to do during the warm-up is I'm going to let them know, listen, Matt, the presentation I'm going to show you, it's normally geared towards union members because you know the way unions are, right, Matt? That, unions, they get benefits for their members that people in the general public don't get. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does. I'm still creating more exclusivity, gang. That's what unions do. But they also, as I'm sure you're aware, they're very fraternal. They have their own little, union members. We have our own lingo.
Mm-hmm.
So I need you to make me one promise, Matt. As I'm going through this presentation, if the computer or I say anything that doesn't make sense to you, please just stop me and ask me what I mean.
Okay.
There'll be things that may get spoken about that you don't normally hear because you're not part of the union.
Okay.
Will you do that?
Yeah.
Now, I can say that to any lead, of course. You can do it with the child safe lead, by the way. These are made available to child safe. People that requested the child safety kits, they're normally just for union members, but we got permission to now provide these same benefits to anybody that applied for the child safety kits. But you may not understand a few things I'm saying. So as I'm doing that, as I'm going over it, if there's anything you don't understand, just stop me and ask me. What I'm doing here is I'm getting them to, again, they're feeling like they're becoming part of this secret little club. You know, this referral's becoming part of a secret little club. And it's going to get them to listen that much closer. The more they listen to me, the easier it is to sell them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You guys with me so far? The third thing to do during the presentation, I've given you two. Two are during the warm-up. Tell them to thank the person. Even if you write this down and put it on your computer, the open space on your laptop as a reminder for yourself, tell them to thank the person and tell them to ask you questions if they don't understand. Those are the two things during the warm-up. Now, you want to stress those very strongly, but now to make it simple for you right now with remembering, thank the person that referred them. And what's the second one?
Stop you if you have any questions.
Ask questions if you have them. The other thing you do during the presentation is name drop 2, 3, 4 times. When you're doing the presentations, you want to name drop the people that sponsored them. You know, Bob and Mary sponsored you. I want to use Bob and Mary's name in the presentation. The easiest places to do that before you get to the close is during the videos. One of the things that I've talked about in the past, and hopefully your managers are teaching you this and hoping you're doing it, when you're playing these videos, 1 or 2 of those videos, there should be somewhere that you pause the video and say something like, wow, can you believe that? Because that keeps them involved. If you're just playing videos and you're losing them before you even get to the close. So you got to pick out a video. You know, most deaths are accident. You know, what are the deaths? 85% are accidental, then heart, then cancer, whatever. Wow, could you believe that? Most deaths are because of accidents. Did you know that, Matt?
No, I didn't.
Before I worked here, I didn't know it either. You know what? Bob and Mary were amazed at that also when I spoke with them. That's name dropping. You pick 1 or 2 videos, well, at least 2, where you stop it because it's amazing or you want to make sure they understand it. And after they agree about that, like, yeah, that's crazy, or I didn't know that before. Yes, it makes sense. You know, does that make sense to you? The freedom of choice, getting, you know, this just said how this freedom of choice will take care of the final expense. That makes sense, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah, it made sense to Bob. That part made sense to Bob and Mary as well. Name drop Bob and Mary. That is the beginning of 2 things. One is the beginning of keeping up with the Joneses, which is one of the strongest motivators people have. People want to keep up with the people around them. Everybody does. Now, I put a pool in my backyard when I moved in. My neighbor put a pool in 3 weeks later. Used the same company. They signed the contract 3 weeks later, and then they paid the people on the side to start their job before mine so they could say they got it done first. True story. Now, of course, I've then spent 200 grand extra later to make mine a lot nicer than theirs, but that's, again, me trying to keep up with that. Then every year was a fight without talking. Who can get the pool company to come to open their pool first? When I saw the pool company pull up to that house, me and Val were like, damn, Alfie got hers done first. Next year, we're getting it earlier. Everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses. Mike goes to DJ's in Belmar. His buddy had 4 drinks. Mike has to have 5. David sees that Maury and Kevin just got their heads reshaved, completely bald. David's got to go to the barber tomorrow to get the back shaved off. Everybody. Courtney's hair is beginning to grow in, and when he looks at the other guys, oh my God, my whole agency is almost bald. I either have really young kids or bald. This is crazy. Sorry, Joanne. You got to shave your head bald. I can't hear you. All right. But the point is that everybody wants to keep up with the Joneses. So you're starting to do that name dropping, because the other thing it's doing, before I ask, Matt, don't answer yet, just in case you're right, but does anyone know the second thing that it's doing is probably even more powerful than the first one? By name dropping.
Credibility.
Credibility. Okay.
Establishing trust.
Establishing trust. Okay. Anyone else? Matt, you can answer if you want.
What I would say is what you're doing is you're making the client feel comfortable knowing that, well, my friend or whoever referred them sat through this presentation and thought these benefits were great. So obviously if they did it, then that's probably good for me as well.
That's the answer I was looking for. My shortened version of that answer is nobody likes to be the only person doing something. You know, when they come out, think about the pandemic we're going through. The one thing my wife, and she's really into this stuff. She's always been. She believes in nutrition and all this kind of stuff. And so, you know, the one thing she told me is we're all waiting for the vaccine to come out. And my wife said, when that vaccine comes out, we are not being the first ones to do it. We want to wait to see everyone else do it and everyone be okay, and then we're going to. Even things at American Income. Ackerman, during one of his meetings, was talking about how the company came out with something and we were going to be the beta test, and ACT said no. When EAP came out, this agency was going to be one of the beta testers for EAP, and ACT said, we don't want to be the first one doing it. Let other people do it. Let them make mistakes. Then we'll hop on. Nobody wants to be the only person doing something. When people hear that other people are doing it, it makes it more comfortable for them. That's why if you listen to the Sales 101, when Eric was talking about his selling process during the warm-up, he would always, you know, you heard him say, oh, do you know John? He's also in the union. Yeah, I met with him the other day. And, you know, and he enrolled in the plans the other day. People want to know they're not the only ones. So by name dropping Bob and Mary, you're also beginning to plant that seed that they're not the only one. Because when I do my close that I'm going to teach you, it is off the charts, the most powerful, keeping up with the Joneses and not being the only one. And because of those two things, it is impossible for them to say no. Yes.
It's just like feel, felt, found. That's why you do that, because then they feel they're jumping in the same boat with everybody else.
Feel, felt, found is designed to put your arm around them, to slowly walk you to your way of thinking versus trying to force them. And the way you're doing that is by making them feel comfortable that everybody else is doing it. Everybody else had the same concern and they enrolled anyway. Everybody else had the same question, but they enrolled anyway. Well, we're starting that name dropping. Since you know Bob and Mary, and can you see, by the way, why I said these referrals from the sales are so powerful? And that's why. I have 10 minutes left. I have a 12 o'clock final. This is why. So that's the name dropping. And then where this all gets tied together is in the close. After you've gone through all the benefits and you've done the recap, the review and recap of the benefits, before you say, what do you want to start with, option A or option B? You add in this one paragraph. Matt, unmute, just in case I need you to role play. I don't even know. Matt, one of the greatest things about this plan is just because Bob and Mary sponsored you for it. I use Bob and Mary again. Just because Bob and Mary sponsored you for the plan, it doesn't mean you have to take the same plan they did. You obviously take the plan that's best for you. In other words, Bob and Mary, they took option A. But you don't need to take that. You take what's good for you. But in order to get you started, do you want to do option A the same way Bob and Mary did? Or do you want to go with option B or possibly even something smaller? What's best for you?
Well, I got to do better than Bob and Mary. So what can I do better than that?
That's the ultimate answer. You ain't getting that one though. But now think about it. What is the only possible answers they can give you?
A or B.
Nope. The only possible answers they can give you is I want the same as Bob and Mary, or I want something different. There is no option to say no. This is the ultimate keep up with the Joneses. And the ultimate that you're not alone. because I'm reminding them right before they pick, I'm reminding them Bob and Mary just did it too. And this is what I said, every time you make a sale, write down whether it was option A, option B, or something smaller. You don't have to put down what it was. A, B, smaller. Put down the client's name so you have that next to you. So when you're calling on someone, if I'm calling Matt because Bob and Mary, I'm going to look at what Bob and Mary took. And because this is strictly from sales, they're going to be on this list. I don't have to go into the benefits they took. You know, there is no real privacy law here, but out of respect, I'll keep it private. But I don't have to go into their benefits. I don't have to go into how much they're paying. But I can say they took option A, B, or something smaller. Well, Bob, just because Bob and Mary took option B, it doesn't mean you have to settle with option B. You take what's best for you. If you want, you can go with option A and get it all done with. Or you can even go something smaller than what they took and take the stepped approach, work up to it. But to get you started, do you want to do option B the same way they did? I always start with the one that Bob and Mary took. You want to take option B the same way they did, or do you want to go with A and get it over with, or something smaller than B? What's good for you? The only thing that, if Bob and Mary took something smaller, they took, you ended up down closing them. The greatest thing about this plan, Matt, is just because Bob and Mary sponsored you, it doesn't mean you take the same plan they did. You take whatever's best for you and your family. In other words, Bob and Mary, they didn't take A or B. They took something smaller and they chose that they're going to work their way up over the years to get to where they need to be. But you don't have to do the same thing. You do what's best for you. But to get you started today, do you want to start with something small like they did and work your way up? Or do you want to go with A or B and just get it over with in one shot and never worry about it again? What's best for you?
B.
Gang, can they say anything other than A, B, or smaller? Think about the whole process. This isn't just the close. This was the exclusivity that was built up and the specialness that was built up and the name dropping during the pausing of one or two presentations. It's everything. I'm going to send this recording out and he'll send it out to Matt, you'll send it out to everyone. You'll put it on wherever the Google Drive or wherever you keep them. But this is going to be there and you can write it down. I'm going to send out the script for it as well. But not one part of this stand on its own as being powerful. You've got to do all of it. If you do all of it, your referrals from sales will be 80 to 100% closing ratio. And then you could take it a step further. Because now you just did all this and you've trained their mind to think about Bob and Mary. And you trained their mind to keep up with Bob and Mary. Meanwhile, at this point, they gave you 2 referrals. I also wrote down on a piece of paper, Bob and Mary gave me 6. Now they took their plan. I wrote them up. Everything is done. Matt, listen, one last thing. I know you sponsored 2 people earlier, and I appreciate that, but everything is done here through word of mouth. Just like I helped you, now I need your help. All right, 2 people. I needed to look through your phone to see who else you could sponsor because that's the only way my business is able to grow. Bob and Mary, they sponsored 6. You're at 2. So I need you to do at least 4, maybe even 5, and you could beat them by 1. Can you do that for me?
Sure.
All right, great. Who's next?
Kevin Greenwood.
And now you can up your referrals. But you've already trained their mind, which is part of it, their innate human nature to begin with, but you brought it from innate to the forefront of wanting to keep up with the Joneses and not be alone. And if they're going to buy their plan to keep up with Bob and Mary and spend money, they're going to give you more referrals to keep up with Bob and Mary. And then what happens is the amount of referrals you get, generation to generation of referrals, just keeps growing. Because now they give you 6. The people you present from them, you said 6, and they're going to give you 6 or 7. And some of those 6s will now give you 7, and some of those 7s will now give you 8. This is where you get to a point where you have no time but to call referrals only from sales. And that's when you make 10 presentations and sell 7 or 8 or 9. This is beyond any referral classes you've heard. This is beyond what Atia does. This is beyond what any referral lesson you have been given. But like any other lesson, it doesn't work in the beginning. It can and it will, but it may not. You just keep doing it till you get comfortable. It will work once you're comfortable with it. All it takes is that first sale. Make sure you get those referrals, and then start calling the referrals from that sale. You're going to sell 1 or 2 of those, and you're going to get 10 referrals from those. You're going to sell 1 or 2 or 3 from each of those 10. Those 3 are going to give you 30. You're going to sell 5 or 6 or 7 because you're only going to present maybe 8 or 9. And then from those, you're going to present 15 or 16 and sell 13 or 14. Where do you think these guys that are on stage every year writing 500,000, 600,000, 700,000 for the year, an individual, you think they're that much better than you? Are they selling every union lead they get? Or are they taking every sale and turning them into 5 or 6 other sales, and their time is spent so much just rolling referrals from sales? This is what's going to take you to the next level, gang. So I don't want to go any further. I want to take 3 minutes if you have any questions in regards to what we just talked about. Raise your hand if you have a question. You gonna use it? Yeah, Matt.
Most of what you're saying can be applied for just about every situation, but you're saying that this should be more focused on from sales.
Correct. Because that's the snowball I want to create. I'm still going to use it with the non-sales until I get this snowball going. Then I'm not going to have time for my non-sales. But in the beginning, you're still going to get referrals from non-sales, and you'll sell some of those. You'll sell them at a higher rate than unions. They'll close at 50, 60%, but they're not going to be the 80 to 100% closing rate. But I'm still going to do the non-sales, but eventually my sales database is going to get so much larger, I won't have time for the non. But you can still do all the same stuff. Thank John, even from a non-sale. Thank John and Mary. What was the second part?
Ask questions.
Ask me questions if you don't understand. What's the next part?
Name drop.
Name drop.
Name drop during certain parts of the presentation. Name drop and then do the referral, to do the close from referrals. But even from a non-sale, you can do it. One of the greatest things about this plan is, just because John and Mary sponsored you, it doesn't mean you have to do what they did. You do whatever's best for you. But to get you started, where do you want to start? Do you want to go with A or B, or would something smaller be better? I just didn't say John and Mary took anything. So you can still use it. It's just not as powerful, of course. Or just do the regular close. What's best for you, option A, or would option B be better? The key is, though, when you get that sale, that's where you want to make sure, because that's going to get that snowball effect going. Kevin, a lot of the sales you're making is because you're not even using this, I'm sure, but the people know that the people that sponsor them bought the plan. And that's why they're buying. So imagine if you used it in every presentation. The first person I ever taught this to, Eric Mangione. I taught it to him on a one-on-one class. He went out that night in the field. He had referral appointments. He used it. He came back in the next morning because I always did a follow-up training with them. And I asked him, I was like, so I know you had how did it go? And he said it didn't work. I was like, what do you mean it didn't work? It always works. He goes, well, I presented whoever it was, and the people that sponsored them took the executive plan. Back then we did executive, preferred, beginner. He goes, the people that sponsored them took the executive plan. I was like, yeah. He goes, so the people I presented, they didn't take the executive. They only took the preferred. I was like, Eric, it worked. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, they're either going to take what the friend took or one of the others. It eliminates the no. He's like, oh, it worked. Again, true story. I was flipping out when I was like, what do you mean it didn't work? It has to work. He's like, no, it didn't. I was like, why? He goes, well, they took the executive plan. The people I presented only took preferred. I was like, Eric, it worked. They bought. This works, gang. If you use this, 30 days from now, you're going to be light years beyond, just in 30 days, where you are right now. Selling virtually everyone you talk to. All it's going to take now is, who can I get appointments with? But if you make a presentation, I knew if I made a presentation, I was making a sale on every single one of these. Now, I had a field train, so I still would call unions and stuff like that, and that had normal closing ratios. But every single one of these, I knew if I presented a referral from a sale, it was a sale. That's why you've heard me say in the past, like, oh, when I went out, I knew I was doing at least 1,500 for the day. I knew. Now, there may be days that it doesn't happen because I had appointments with these people and I didn't get to see them. But I knew I was doing it, and I wasn't just training my mind. I actually knew I was doing it because all I had to do was present one or two of them. Make sense? All right, gang. That is it. I will